There's an old cliche in movies about a corrupt police officer planting evidence in cars of innocent people. And this cliche is not without its merits, as there have been times in the past where such events have happened. You would think with the advent of technology that this wouldn't happen anymore. Police now have body cameras, for instance. But take the case of Zachary Wester, a Jackson County deputy who found ways to hide his corrupt activities from the view of the populace, until one day he slipped up, and finally his crimes were revealed for all the world to see. Last year I talked about Luis Scarcella, a former cop whose dirty tactics caused at least 20 people to be in prison for crimes that they didn't commit. Scarcella was a lazy cop who would rather use dirty tactics to put away people he thought were guilty rather than put in the work to apprehend the real criminal. But Zachary Wester, this man is a piece of work. Instead of being lazy, this dude actually put in the work to place handcuffs on innocent people. And well, spoiler, unlike Scarcella, who pretty much gets a pension even though he should be locked away for how he treated suspects, Wester paid the price. But I will get there. First, let's talk about something that is a more recent development in law enforcement: the police body cam.
There's a gun.
There is a gun?
No.
Oh, you...
Which has its own growing community here on YouTube, which I guess with Archive Live, I am somewhat a part of it. Body cams serve many functions. They can prove that a police officer acted in professional ways, in case suspects claim that a cop decided to be a dickhead and use unwanted force. But they can also show the opposite, when a cop oversteps that boundary and becomes the dickhead. The footage is used in court cases, and can show evidence of a crime being committed, or just show some funny moments. In 2012, Illinois became the first state where police had to wear body cameras. This slowly spread over the years, and now pretty much a majority of states use this technology. It is very useful in seeing what happened in a situation involving law enforcement, when it is used right. There have been some cases where the camera was knocked off, or you don't see what is actually happening, or a police officer just shuts it off, or in a couple of cases mutes them. This doesn't give law enforcement a good look, especially when police use the term malfunction when it wasn't a malfunction. I created this channel to look at true crime stories from an unbiased point of view, to just look at the facts of a case and talk about them. This channel is politically neutral when it comes to law enforcement. I will call out bad cops, and I will praise good cops. I will talk about those who are wrongfully convicted, and I will talk about those who are arrested for crimes they did commit. So again, I'm going to say this: there are good cops out there. Chill dudes and dudettes who just want to protect their community. But there are others who see the power of the badge and think they're above everything. You hear more about them because, let's face it, police doing shit by the book is boring. Zachary Wester was a cop who you would think, by glances at his body cam footage, that he was doing things by the book. But unfortunately, he proved why body cam footage, while great, still doesn't show us everything. For this case, we go down to Florida, the land of assaults with alligators, face eating, and Disney World. Zachary Wester was a sheriff's deputy there from the years 2016 to 2018. Before he worked for the Jackson County Sheriff's Office, he worked for the Liberty County Sheriff's Office. When he worked at the Liberty County Sheriff's Office, he seemed fine at first, according to the sheriff at the time. But then that sheriff heard rumors that Wester was, having affairs with married women, and having a relationship with a woman he had arrested for shoplifting.
What? What the?
While what officers and deputies do in their spare time is no one's business but their own, that last one seems really bad. The woman was arrested by him for shoplifting. That is a conflict of interest. And he did get an internal affairs investigation and a 4-day suspension when it came to light. And here is what Wester said in his defense. He said, and I quote, he was being stupid. Well, 9 months with the Liberty County Sheriff's Office, and the sheriff wanted him fired. Instead, Wester transferred to Jackson County, where the sheriff of Liberty County contacted the sheriff of Jackson County and told him that he should not hire Wester. But Wester wanted to be a cop. He came from a long line of police officers. His father was a deputy sheriff of Jackson County. And in 2015, Wester became a police officer himself. Though he had a hiccup in Liberty County, in Jackson County, he was pretty much praised as an exceptional police officer. Yet, hindsight being what it is, he comes off as a major douchebag in some of these clips I will show you, singing Christmas songs.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. Is that seat slide? Man, I'm in the Christmas spirit. What we got there, my friend? Look at there.
trying to be funny.
And I like to hum a tune in case something ever goes in front of the jury, you know? So they're not just sitting somewhere, just like elevator music. So they're not just sitting somewhere chilling, hanging out.
This guy was also a huge man, so he had an intimidating presence about him that he tried to offset with being lighthearted. There's something he told one of his victims that will stick with you through this video. He told Joshua Emanuel, sometimes the people you think you can trust are the very ones you shouldn't.
He gave me a piece of advice. Sometimes the people you think you can trust are the very ones you shouldn't. That has stuck with me as the most chilling thing he said. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have trusted the police officer standing in front of me. And how awful is that to have to say?
Now here comes the fun part. When it comes to the body cam footage of the arrests associated with this case, there are some issues. Some were erased from the server, some are partial footage, and there are only a couple that are full body cam footage. Wester's explanation for this? Camera malfunctions, and he doesn't know how some got erased. Which, to be fair, I am not sure the policy of the Jackson County Sheriff's Office when it comes to erasing body cam footage. A more logical thought would be that it would be erased when the case was over. And a lot of these cases, the people felt it better to enter a plea of guilty because they felt that they would not be believed if it went to trial. But in Wester's trial, he is asked under oath what happened to the footage, so I'm assuming that they don't erase the footage until after trial. Wester, for reference, stated that the policy is to erase it after a certain number of days. Still seems shady to me that there is even any missing body cam footage. More shady is the partial footage because he claimed that the body cam kept malfunctioning.
Are you sure about that?
Which once in a while, that might be the case, but it seems a little far-fetched that his body cam would malfunction as much as it did. It did get to the point where Internal Affairs did order that he get his body cam looked at because of all the malfunctions. Apparently, when investigating these malfunctions, the findings supported that the camera kept malfunctioning. Even with that finding, it makes you wonder how many times did he just shut off the camera? Well, I try to remain unbiased towards cases. There have been instances where the police will cover for one of their own, even if that police officer did something illegal. For example, let's go back to Louis Scarcella. Scarcella, as a detective, didn't work alone. He had a partner, Detective Stephen Chimmel. Chimmel was there to see all the ways Scarcella put innocent people away. He even took part in some of the illegal activities. Law enforcement is dangerous work. Police officers put their lives on the line and do so to protect and serve their communities. They have to rely on one another and trust that the other is going to have their back in life-threatening moments. This creates more of a brotherhood than a job. Thus, when someone snitches about another cop's illegal activities, it could lead to trust issues, which is a cliche in cop shows, but it's real. But to be clear, we do not have any evidence to support that Wester had help when it came to the missing footage. So we cannot point the finger at anyone but Zachary Wester. We have to follow the facts and the footage we have, as well as the testimony of those Wester arrested. I'm going to go in the order of the footage shown on Prime Crime, the drug planting scandal that shocked the nation, on the Law and Crime channel, as this and the Podcast One podcast, Court Junkie, are the two sources I am mostly going to be citing for this video. There is really only one video that went into depth on this case, and I can only find one podcast. First is the story of Joshua Emanuel, whom I mentioned earlier. He was on his way to work when he was pulled over by Wester. Wester claimed that Emanuel was pulled over because Emanuel's license was suspended, and that Wester got this information through Emanuel's license plate.
The day I got stopped, I was actually on my way to work. I was coming through a small town. There was a police officer sitting underneath the overpass, and when he pulled in behind me, I still really didn't think anything of it until the lights came on. And that was when I was like, this is really weird.
Which sounds shady to begin with, but I guess it's possible. But according to Emanuel, Wester followed him for 3 miles before lighting him up.
He said that my license had been suspended, and he realized that when he ran my plate. I was like, that's strange because you were facing me under the overpass and you followed me for 3 miles before you flicked the lights on. So the red flags were already going up.
This seems suspicious to Emanuel, which honestly I don't blame him. I don't know how the system is built to where you can tell a person's driver's license is suspended from the license plate, but I'm pretty sure also that it doesn't take that long to look up that to begin with. so following someone for 3 miles is questionable. So Wester gets out, is polite and professional, and Emanuel lets Wester know that he has a handgun in the center console of his car. Well, because of that, Wester has probable cause to search the car.
You made the spontaneous statement about there was a handgun in the center console. You said it was okay for me to go retrieve that handgun from the center console.
Yes.
So we pulled Emanuel out of the car. Emanuel was upfront and honest throughout the stop, so he had nothing to hide. But Wester returned to Emanuel and told him that he found shoved between the passenger seat and the center console a syringe. The syringe was in a plastic bag with what appeared to be meth. I want you to watch Emanuel's face here as he is told this. This is a face of a man who is confused. He is in shock. He didn't know anything about it.
Opened up the center console, shoved down in between the front passenger seat and where the center console is at, I saw what appeared to be a syringe sticking out. Whenever I went, I looked further, pulled the seat apart. The syringe is actually in like a plastic, larger baggie with a plastic container with a substance in it that appears to be an illegal narcotic. Do you know anything about that?
I do not.
Emanuel didn't have track marks on his arm. He has stated he has never done drugs in his life, not even pot. Emanuel was arrested for this, and it left him wondering if someone he knew left it in his car. But Emanuel was lucky. He grew up around law enforcement. His father was a prison guard and was friends with a lieutenant. Emanuel's mother called that lieutenant after Emanuel was arrested, which when hearing this news struck the lieutenant as odd, that something wasn't right. So the lieutenant was able to get Emanuel a conditional release. According to Emanuel, that lieutenant even interrogated him, and Emanuel stuck to his story that there was nothing going on and he didn't know anything about the drugs. The next video shown is the case of Steve Vaughn, which is more tragic and more anger-inducing. Steve Vaughn, 3 weeks prior to being pulled over by Wester, was released from prison. He was in prison on drug charges. He was trying to turn his life around, trying to stay sober when Wester pulled him over. At first, Wester claimed that Vaughn's license plates came back with no insurance. But when Vaughn showed him that he had insurance, Wester then claimed that Vaughn was swerving and drifted over the double yellow line. Wester then said he smelled the scent of burnt pot, so he asked to search the vehicle, which Vaughn agreed to.
I've got to test this. Have you ever seen this before?
No. No, what is that?
It did field test presumptive positive for methamphetamine. Okay? Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
If I read you your rights, will you talk to me?
I talked to you, man.
Okay.
I'm just saying, man, I ain't just... Dude, I'm...
We're going to get there. We're going to get there, okay?
But here's the thing. This is one of those cases where you do not see him finding meth in Vaughn's vehicle. Claiming camera malfunction, the only thing we get to see is Vaughn being shown the little baggie of meth that Wester found in the truck.
Look, man, you're going to go to jail today for possession of methamphetamine, okay? It was in your vehicle right there at the center console.
Come on, man. Please.
I don't have much discretion with a felony charge, buddy. I don't have much discretion with that, man.
Man, dude, man, my mom is going to work. Oh, man, dude, I'm serious, dude. Anything. What you want me to do, man?
Wester arrested Vaughn, who had just got out of prison. And because of his record, who would believe him that he didn't know where the drugs came from or how they got into his car to begin with? This is such anger-inducing for me. Vaughn was trying to turn his life around, and Wester, probably knowing that Vaughn had a criminal history when he pulled him over, tried to take away Vaughn's chance to turn his life around, arresting people for crimes that they weren't committing, but that Wester was committing. This isn't just a simple arrest, a possible probation or fines. Some people, like Vaughn, who have a criminal history, could go to prison for long stretches of time. People could lose their job over these arrests. People could lose custody of children. This man was ruining lives. Like the lives of Kimberly and Jeremy Hazelwood. Driving with their children in the car, Wester pulled them over on the claim that there was no insurance. Kimberly threw away a pill bottle while Wester was pulling them over. After a canine search hit that there was something in the car, Wester found meth in that pill bottle. Kimberly began crying and swore she never did drugs. They lost custody of their children for a time because of this. And worst is how Wester comes across in these videos. While I'm sure that if you knew nothing about him, nothing of the crimes that he was committing, that he comes off as a charming dude, somewhat goofy. But in hindsight, to me, he comes off as arrogant and like he's above the people he's falsely arresting. Just the attitude of what he knows he's getting away with. It's disgusting to watch. And there's another red flag that if if you didn't know what you were looking for, you would have missed it. He kept walking back and forth from the car he was supposed to be searching back to his squad car. This would become important later because the police are going to find something in the trunk of his car. He would search, then he would walk back to the suspect, banter, go back to his car, and then come back. In Emanuel's case, Emanuel thinks that what he was doing was grabbing the baggie with a syringe in it from the trunk of his car, then stuffing it into his glove, then walking back to plant it.
The only explanation I've been able to come up with is he went to the back of his car, he put the bag with the syringe in his glove, carried the gloves to the car, dumped it in the passenger seat, then put the gloves on, and quote unquote started his search. Jackson County police officers, they wore short sleeves. They weren't long sleeves. He couldn't have tucked it in his shirt. He didn't like reach down on his boot or anything like that. I think he just carried it in his glove from the back of his patrol car into mine.
But you don't see him planting anything. Same with the Hazelwoods. He walked back to his squad car after pulling them over. He then told them that a canine unit would do a walk around the car. Wester, in this case, though, kept placing his hand on the driver's side door and placed his hands inside the door a couple of times. Guess where the dog hinted at? The driver's side door. Yet again, there was no evidence of him planting anything. Either the camera was not in the frame to see anything being planted, or there was a camera malfunction, or he was slick and knew what he was doing. In most cases, the only person searching the car was Zachary Wester. The other police officers were either standing with the detainees or just milling about.
Most of these searches are only being conducted by Zachary Wester. There's not a second person in the car helping him, so he's in there by himself while the second officer or the backup officer is watching the suspect. So that does give Zachary Wester ample opportunity and time to plant those drugs.
But criminals, even if they are police, they will mess up. And when he pulled over Teresa Odum, he finally messed up. Teresa Odum was driving her truck when Wester stopped her due to her brake lights malfunctioning. She had told Wester that there was wiring that was wet from a rainstorm and that she had already gotten tickets for it. Odum allowed a search of her truck. Now I'm going to say this to everyone that watches this video. If you are pulled over by a police officer, unless they have probable cause to search the vehicle, you can refuse. They cannot search your vehicle without probable cause. Problem is, we've seen with the Hazelwood case that Wester would still find a way to get the canine unit to hit on the car. Not sure if you can ask the officer to step back from the vehicle so that the canine unit can do a sweep, but you do not have to allow a search of your car. Back to Odum. Odum was pulled from the car, but unlike the other body cam footage from Wester, this one showed something he didn't want people to see. As he's putting on his gloves, look at how his left hand looks.
You can physically see a packet with a white powder in his hand before he puts his glove on, which he later finds that same packet in Teresa Odum's truck.
He is holding something in his hand. Court Cam did a better enhancement of this, so I will use that footage. He is palming a packet of white powder in his hand. The same packet he later finds in the truck, though there is a gray hair that he pulls with it, but it is Odum's truck. A hair could easily be on the seats or anywhere. That doesn't mean it was on the packet. And if you look, it seems to be on his glove more than on the packet. He then places the packet on a spoon, as if he's staging the scene.
You dirty pig!
Teresa's reaction is one of defiance. The one who has watched enough body cam videos can make an argument that she sounds like anyone who's guilty of a crime. Just rewind back and look at his hand. She had nothing in the car, and he used a sleight of hand trick to place the packet in the truck.
It is yogurt, sir.
I know. Okay.
It's yogurt.
How about this, though?
That is not mine. No, sir.
Okay. I'm not going to ask you any
No,
direct, hold
sir.
on. I'm not going to ask you any direct questions. I'm going to read you your rights first, okay?
Like the others, she pled guilty. But the reason wasn't because she was guilty. It was her word against his. And like the others, she felt as though she wouldn't be heard fairly that the drugs were planted in her car. And that is the sad reality of this crime. These people took guilty pleas for crimes they didn't commit because of the power of the badge. It put them at odds that they would never get a fair trial. But unbeknownst to Wester and Odum both, this traffic stop was the beginning of the downfall. Christina Pumphrey was the architect in bringing down this corrupt cop. While Teresa Odum's stop was the catalyst, Pumphrey was the one who got the ball moving. Pumphrey worked at the state's attorney's office, and something about Wester's arrest record made her question what was really happening. The inconsistencies in the body cam footage, the inconsistencies in Wester's report.
There's a lot of discrepancies between the reports and the body cam footage. These body-worn cameras were either turned on late, they malfunctioned, or the video was actually deleted off of the server.
So she took it upon herself to investigate Wester. While she was investigating, though, there was a roadblock, and another roadblock, and another roadblock. No evidence of him planting evidence. The only thing that she could find was the discrepancies in his reports to what was shown on the body cam footage. That was until she looked at Teresa Odum's footage. With that, Wester's patrol car was searched by a canine unit, and the dog hit on Wester's trunk. The search of the trunk found pot, meth, and drug paraphernalia hidden in his trunk. Not just a small amount, it was actually a stash of drugs. Thus, it was determined that he was planting drugs in people's cars. On August 1st, 2018, he was placed on administrative leave as the police investigated him. On September 10th of 2018, he was fired. On July 10th of 2019, he was arrested on 76 counts of racketeering, official misconduct, perjury, fabricating evidence, possession of a controlled substance, possession of drug paraphernalia, and false imprisonment. If found guilty, he would be spending the rest of his life in prison. But this isn't going to be a simple court case, because this was a police officer who did well in hiding his own crimes. For this trial, the prosecution came forth with a theory that Wester was trying to pad his resume to get into a narcotics division, while Wester would later get on the stand and claim that this theory was false. He denied all charges against him and pled not guilty on the 76 charges. Those 76 charges were based on only 12 victims as well, but this trial would be a challenging one for the prosecution. While people in law enforcement could tell that there was something strange about these stops, trying to explain it to a jury and what they are not seeing is the issue at hand, as well as a harder argument to make, because Wester did have reasonable doubt. You do not see him planting anything, and the defense knew this, and played the argument that most of the victims pled guilty, so therefore they must have had drugs in their car. And the defense attorney kept also asking them as they were testifying if they have lawsuits open, which honestly comes off more like a bad Law and Order defense attorney than an actual defense attorney. I could see his reasoning that he was trying to go with. The whole, oh, a conviction here would help you get money argument. But the defense lawyer, instead of just arguing the obvious and trying to refute the victim's testimony, just accused them of wanting money to try to discredit them. He did have moments where he did try to refute the testimonies, but it seemed mostly that he was interested in trying to argue that the people testifying for the prosecution were only interested in monetary gain.
The white small plastic baggie that was in that spoon that the deputy just showed you on this video, had you ever seen that before?
No, sir.
Was that in your car?
No, sir.
He said that he smelled marijuana emitting from the vehicle.
Had you been smoking marijuana in the vehicle?
No, sir, absolutely not.
What about Miss Smith?
Absolutely not. She was 3 months pregnant.
How long was it between you packing Reginald's lunch and this defendant pulling you over and saying he found meth in it?
Less than 5 minutes.
Was there any meth in that lunchbox?
No, sir.
Did you put any meth in it?
No, sir. He told Reginald to put his hands behind his back, and he told me to go over towards the tree.
At some point, did you try to film this on your phone?
Yes, sir.
What happened?
He was acting weird. He told me that I would be arrested if I did not put my phone down.
The only thing I really saw was the fact that he did kept going back into the car, like several times, over and over and over again. Because he'd come back, he'd talk to me, he'd go back to the car, he'd come back to me, he'd go back to the car. He said he found a syringe in a baggie that looked like it had been used. He said it was stuffed down in between the passenger seat and the center console.
Would you have seen it if something was there?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Was there anything like that there?
No.
Wester did testify in his defense. And what did he have to say? That he did not plant drugs in those cars. That he did not turn off his body camera. That he didn't know where the missing footage was. And that the drugs in his car can be explained away as a misunderstanding.
Did you plant this substance in Mr. Williams' lunchbox?
I did not.
The report that you wrote in that case, did you falsify anything in this report?
Nothing. No, sir.
With Miss Wood, Was there anything with her that you planted so that you could arrest her?
No.
Was there anything in your report that wasn't true about Miss Wood?
No.
The marijuana shake and the methamphetamine that you found in the vehicle, did you plant that there?
I did not, no.
The allegation is you found 6, but only entered 5 into evidence.
And that would be correct.
Okay. Tell us why.
It was determined that one that was unused could have very well been for his diabetes that he just stated that he uses syringes for. So I didn't determine that one to be of evidentiary value, and it was just simply disposed of.
Did you take that other needle and hide it in your car to plant in somebody else's car later?
No, I did not.
In all of these cases that we've talked about, you did not plant any evidence.
That never crossed my mind, no.
These were legitimate stops, searches, and you found illegal narcotics.
Yes, sir.
Methamphetamine is quite prevalent here in Jackson County, correct?
Methamphetamine is very prevalent in Jackson County. I've seen firsthand the destruction that methamphetamine has on families, has on friends, and in my job as a deputy sheriff, I wanted to be as proactive as I could. I didn't feel that the citizens of Jackson County wanted to pay me to just sit somewhere and wait for a call.
First, let's look at what he said about what he was holding in his hand in the Teresa Odum case. His claim, well, I'm not really going to sugarcoat this. If what he said under oath is true, he painted himself to look like a bad cop. He claimed he found the baggie on the driver's side door. That according to him, he could not see if there was anything in it. So he picked it up with his bare hand and was holding it in his hand as he was putting on the gloves. He was holding it, according to him, because he didn't know if it was evidence or not yet. He then, according to him, put it down on the floorboards, and that baggie magically disappeared.
In the void space, there was a baggie of some sort. I didn't know at the time if it was of evidentiary value or not. It didn't appear as if it had narcotics in it. It didn't appear as if it had anything that may have been of value, but nonetheless, I wanted to try to preserve it, so I grabbed it. And whenever I entered the vehicle, it was in my left hand, but I wanted to be able to still use my fingers. Before I put my gloves on, I moved my hand and I placed that item in the driver's side floorboard, and I continued my search.
The state was showing these still photos. There's something in your hand.
Sure.
There is something in your hand.
Absolutely.
Was it that bag of methamphetamine that's sitting there on that spoon right now?
It was not, no.
Where on your body camera video do we see you handle that baggie and either picking it up or putting it down or looking at it closely to determine what's in it?
Whenever I put that baggie in the front driver's side floorboard, I never seen it again. I'm not sure if it's because when a semi came through, it blew it into the roadway. There was really no need for me to go walk across 231 at the busiest time of the day to try to find something that I didn't even know was evidentiary value or not.
Why'd you set it down on the floorboard if you didn't know if it had evidentiary value or not?
So that I could search the vehicle.
How about searching what's in your hand? How about that?
So the reason why police wear gloves when handling evidence is so they don't contaminate it. So either he is a dumbass or he's lying. Considering that the baggie disappeared after, according to him, just comes off as shady. As for the drugs in the back of his car, his explanation is just as dumb. He claimed that he found drugs in a bathroom at a park. He had apparently been out on a call where he found and collected the drugs. That he was in the middle of bagging and securing the drugs in what I assume to be the police station garage when he was called to talk to internal affairs. So he, instead of handing off the drugs to someone to be processed, he hid them in his car. By the way, there is no evidence to prove the claim that he was out on a call. He didn't check in with dispatch. Dispatch didn't call him to look into anything. So again, either he's a horrible police officer or he's lying. He came off on the stand as professional though. He was definitely coached by his lawyer on how to handle any question. And it worried his victims, as well as the prosecution, because they feared that he had swayed the jury.
You're out of order! You're out of order! The whole trial is out of order! They're out of order!
But their worries were put to rest when the verdict was read. The jury deliberated for 7 hours over a span of 2 days, and on May 18, 2021, they delivered their verdict, which was read out to the people in the court. And I will spare you the 5-minute-long verdict and just tell you the verdict. He was found guilty of 19 charges, including racketeering, official misconduct, false imprisonment, and possession. 48 other charges he was found not guilty. The jury found him guilty on what the prosecution could easily prove. The charges he was found guilty on were the cases of Steve Vaughn, Joshua Emanuel, and Teresa Odum. He was sentenced to 12.5 years in prison. A lot of people Wester had arrested had their names cleared, but it is too little too late for a lot of them. They had their lives ruined by Zachary Wester. Some had issues with drugs in the past, but got clean. They had to deal with family and friends questioning if they were lying or not. Some lost custody of their children. Some lost their jobs. And most, if not all, felt as though they couldn't fight for their innocence in a court of law. But this cop was thrown in prison for what he did. While he's not the only corrupt cop out there, and trust me, I have one more I'm going to cover sooner or later, he is proof that corruption will not be tolerated. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please leave a thumbs up. If you like what I do, please subscribe. And if you want to support me, I have memberships and a Patreon, link in the description. Till next time.